Before TikTok, before Twitter, before the internet was even a spark in a scientist's brain, there was this guy, Joseph Ducreux, an 18th century French painter who looked at the stuffy, formal world of aristocratic portraiture and said,
"Nah, I'm good."
This man painted himself smirking and pointing at the viewer like he just dropped the sickest burn in your group chat. He painted himself mid-yawn, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He painted himself telling you to shut up. He basically invented selfie energy 200 years before the front-facing camera. And then, in 2009, we, the internet, found his portraits and did what we do best. We turned him into a meme, a glorious, ridiculous, viral meme. But the story of how this guy went from being the Queen of France's favourite painter to a legend of internet culture is even wilder than the memes themselves. This isn't just about some old paintings. It's about a rebel artist, a political survivor, and the accidental godfather of viral content. This is the story of history's first meme lord, the Queen's official hype man. Okay, so to understand why Ducreux's self-portraits were so rebellious, you first have to understand the world he came from. Pre-revolutionary France was all about rules, tradition and, well, being really, really fancy, especially in art. The art world was dominated by the Royal Academy of Painting and Sculpture, a super exclusive club that decided what good art was. And good art usually meant making rich people look powerful, noble, and about as expressive as a mannequin. Joseph Ducreux, born in 1735, learned all these rules. He trained under the best, a guy named Maurice Quentin de la Tour, who was famous for capturing a little bit of life in his portraits. A hint of a smile here, a twinkle in the eye there. So Ducreux got good, really good. His big break came in 1769. He was sent to Vienna on a mission that was part art, part international diplomacy. His job? To paint a portrait of a 13-year-old girl named Marie Antoinette. You might know her by her married name, Marie Antoinette. In an age before Instagram, this painting was basically her profile picture for the entire French court. It was the first time they'd see their future queen. No pressure. The regular court painter wanted too much money, so the job went to the more affordable Ducreux, and he nailed it. Marie Antoinette loved the portrait so much that when she became queen, she made Ducreux her premier peintre, her first painter. Here's the thing though, Ducreux wasn't in the academy. He was an outsider, an indie artist who got the top job because the queen just liked his vibe. This made the art establishment furious, but it also meant Ducreux's entire career depended on personal branding and royal patronage, not institutional approval. He was an artistic entrepreneur and he knew he had to stand out. So, by day, he was painting official portraits of King Louis XVI and other nobles, making them look exactly as stoic and important as they paid him to. He was playing the game. But after hours, he was doing something else entirely. Something personal, weird and wonderful.
The Academy, please. A stuffy collection of old men who believed a portrait's purpose was to make a duke look less like a foot. I painted the Queen. The Queen. She understood. She knew I didn't just paint a face. I painted a person. But these formal commissions, yes, they paid the bills. They proved I could master their tedious little rules. But an artist who only follows rules is not an artist. He is a decorator. I was never a decorator.
The face as a science lab. So what was Ducreux doing in his spare time? He was getting obsessed with a trendy and kind of bonkers 18th century pseudoscience called physiognomy. The idea was that you could scientifically determine someone's personality and moral character just by looking at their face. The curve of your nose, the shape of your chin, it was all a map to your soul. A Swiss pastor named Johann Lavater wrote a whole book about it, and it became a massive bestseller across Europe. For an artist like Ducreux, this was revolutionary. It was a new way to think about portraiture. Instead of just capturing a likeness, what if you could capture a person's character? What if you could paint their very soul? Freed from the need to flatter rich clients, Ducreux turned his own face into a laboratory. He began painting a series of self-portraits that weren't just portraits. They were scientific studies in human expression. These are known as tronies, character studies that focus on exaggerated emotion, not just a person. He was, in modern terms, building a personal brand with provocative, shareable content. And the content was his own face, twisted into expressions no respectable artist would dare to paint. Let's look at the evidence. Exhibit A, self-portrait, yawning. He first showed this at an alternative art show in 1783, and it's a masterpiece of anti-portraiture. He's in his housecoat and a turban-like cap, caught in the middle of a massive, jaw-stretching, body-contorting yawn. He's even stretching his arm out, breaking the frame and invading our space. It's intimate, unguarded, and a little bit gross. It's the 18th century equivalent of posting a picture of yourself on a Sunday morning, no filter, hair a mess, captioned, "Ugh, Mondays." Exhibit B, le discret, or the silence. Here, he's turned away but looks back at us, pressing a finger to his lips. Shh. It's theatrical. It's conspiratorial. He's not just a painting, he's a character in a story. And by looking at him, you're suddenly in on the secret. He's creating a relationship with the viewer. Think about what he's doing. He's isolating a universal human emotion, boredom, secrecy, surprise, and making it the entire point of the painting. The backgrounds are neutral. The story is gone. All that's left is the expression. He was unknowingly creating the 18th century version of a reaction image. Each portrait is a reusable emotional template. The yawn for boredom. The shh for gossip. He was making the raw material for a visual language he couldn't have imagined.
A yawn. They called it vulgar. Vulgar! As if dukes and barons don't yawn. As if the king himself doesn't feel a wave of soul-crushing boredom when some minister drones on about taxes. I painted what was true. Anyone can paint a face. 1,000 artists in Paris can paint your powdered wig and your silk waistcoat. But can they paint the moment right before you sneeze? Can they capture the flicker of terror in your eyes when you realise you've said entirely the wrong thing at a dinner party? Number. But I could. I painted life in all its awkward, jaw-unhinging glory.
How to survive a revolution with a smirk. Being the first painter to the Queen is a pretty sweet gig, until the French Revolution happens and everyone associated with the monarchy starts, losing their heads. As the revolution escalated, Ducreux's job title went from a badge of honor to a massive liability. In 1791, he wisely decided it was a good time to visit London. While in exile, he did one last job for his former boss. He drew the final portrait of King Louis XVI right before his execution. Talk about a tough assignment. But then, in 1793, at the absolute height of the Reign of Terror, Ducreux did something crazy. He came back to Paris. This was the most dangerous time to be alive in France, especially for a guy with his resume. But Ducreux was a master of survival. He managed to get a new patron and protector, Jacques-Louis David. David was the artist of the revolution. He was a radical, a political powerhouse, and basically the guy in charge of the new government's entire artistic brand. And for some reason, he took Ducreux under his wing, even getting him an apartment in the Louvre. In the same year Ducreux was drawing the condemned king, he was also exhibiting a portrait of the revolutionary leader Robespierre. This guy was a political chameleon. And it's in this cauldron of fear, chaos and reinvention that he creates his masterpiece, the painting you all know. Portrait of the artist in the guise of a moqueur. He exhibited this around 1793. Look at it. He's not in fancy royal silks anymore. He's dressed like a citizen of the new republic, and he's pointing right at us. His mouth is open in this incredible, confident, toothy grin. he's breaking the fourth wall. This was more than just a painting. It was a radical political statement. In the old world, you were a subject who respectfully admired a portrait from a distance. Ducreux's pose asserts a new kind of equality. He's not a subject on a wall. He's a citizen, an active, modern individual who sees you, engages with you, and even challenges you. It was also an act of artistic rebellion. His protector, David, was all about serious, humorless, neoclassical art that made the revolution look grand and heroic. Ducreux, meanwhile, gives us this: a mischievous, deeply human, self-aware individual. The gesture is brilliant because it's so ambiguous. Who is he mocking? The old aristocrats he used to paint? The new, overly zealous revolutionaries? The viewer? The absurdity of it all? In an era where picking the wrong side could get you killed, Ducreux created a portrait that was stylistically bold but ideologically slippery. It was a masterpiece of personal branding that doubled as an act of self-preservation.
You see this? This is not a smirk, it is a declaration. In a world where everyone was screaming about liberty while sharpening blades, I chose to observe, to point. I pointed at the absurdity of it all, at the pomposity of the old regime and the self-righteousness of the new one. They couldn't touch me. What would they accuse me of? Pointing with excessive flair. While they were busy making heroes out of marble, I made myself human. And it turns out being human is far more revolutionary.
Disregard females, acquire immortality. For the next 200 years, the moqueur hung in the Louvre. Art nerds knew it was special, but for the most part, it was just a quirky painting from a long-dead Frenchman. And then came 2009. The internet discovered Joseph Ducreux, and his second act began. Someone, some anonymous genius, took the moqueur and overlaid it with a caption: "Disregard females, acquire currency." It was a hilariously formal, stilted translation of the rap lyric, "Fuck bitches, get money." And just like that, the Joseph Ducreux, or Archaic Rap meme, was born. The format was simple but brilliant. Take a modern rap or pop lyric, or a common internet phrase, and translate it into the kind of verbose, pseudo-archaic English you'd expect a guy in a powdered wig to use. "Gentlemen, I inquire, who hath released the hounds?" For "Who let the dogs out?" Do not despise the racketeer, instead, despise his sport, for "Don't hate the player, hate the game." The humour worked on so many levels. First, there's the anachronism, the clash between the 18th century painting and the 21st century slang. But it was also an interactive puzzle. You had to decode the fancy language and then get the satisfying aha moment when you recognized the original lyric. It was an inside joke for the entire internet. And Ducreux's portrait was the perfect vehicle. That smug grin, that direct pointing finger. It was witty, confrontational, and self-aware, the exact tone of the captions. The painting wasn't just a background, it was the punchline. As one writer put it, the painting seemed to have been virtually waiting through the centuries to be adorned with witty captions. The meme creators, without even realizing it, were engaging in a form of art criticism. They intuitively understood the painting's rebellious, anti-establishment spirit. They didn't pick a boring, stuffy portrait. They picked the one that was already winking at them. The meme evolved, of course. There was the Steve Buscemi mashup. His other self-portraits, like the yawn, got pulled into the mix. His face ended up on t-shirts, coffee mugs, and probably some very questionable tattoos. He had achieved true digital immortality. In a way, the meme fulfilled the painting's destiny. Ducreux's direct address was an invitation to a conversation. For 200 years, nobody could answer back. But meme culture, which is all about participation, finally gave the audience a voice. We weren't just looking at his art, we were collaborating with it. The circuit he opened in 1793 was finally complete.
So, Let me be certain I comprehend this. You have taken my masterwork, my psychological treatise on the modern self, and you have used it to translate the profound poetry of a gentleman who calls himself the notorious B.I.G. He squints at the phone. I adore it when you address me as Big Popper. It is magnificent. The sheer, unmitigated gall. It's the most punk rock thing I've ever seen. I don't know what that means, but it feels right. You finally understood the joke. It only took you 2 centuries.
The timelessness of selfie energy. Joseph Ducreux was an artist of contradictions. A painter for the Queen who survived the revolution that killed her. An 18th century man whose masterpiece found its true home on the 21st century internet. Calling him history's first meme lord isn't just a joke. It's a recognition that he was an artist profoundly ahead of his time. He was pioneering a visual language of the self that feels perfectly at home in our age of social media and digital identity. He rejected the stiff, idealized poses of his day and chose to capture the candid, the informal, the authentic. A yawn, a smirk, a secret. That focus on unguarded, spontaneous emotion is the very heart of modern selfie energy. He was using his art to perform an identity. His fascination with physiognomy was a quest to make his inner life visible, to show his mood, his character, his personality. That's what we all do. Every time we choose a profile picture or post a selfie with a specific expression, we're curating our own image. And most importantly, he understood the power of breaking the fourth wall. That direct gaze, that pointing finger, it was an invitation to engage. It was an act that was interactive, personal, and deeply aware of its audience. It's the 18th century version of looking right into your phone's camera and saying, "Here I am." The journey of his art, from a strange spectacle in the Paris salons to a viral sensation online, proves how timeless his vision was. Joseph Ducreux created images that were designed to get a reaction, to communicate a persona, and to share a joke across the centuries. He knew how to go viral. The world just had to wait over 200 years to invent the right medium. So next time you see that powdered wig and that smug grin, remember the artist behind the meme. A rebel who painted his way through a revolution and ended up against all odds as an icon of the internet. Who do you think was the world's first something? Let us know in the comments below. Our last episode was on Samuel Pepys, the world's first influencer, so if you like this, go check that one out. And of course, for more deep dives into the forgotten pioneers of history, make sure you like and subscribe to the Candlelight Historian. We've got a lot more stories to tell.